Would like to call to order this meeting of the Monroe County School Board. It is Wednesday, April 2nd. No, we don't do roll call here. First order of business is public input for items that are not on the next order of business is March 5th, 2025.
I move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I would like to recommend that to the person taking notes that sort of half verbatim and half summary, and that instead of the I, said and then I, it might be easier to just talk about who spoke, what time it was on the, on the clock, and then if somebody needs to go back, they can watch the video. That's how we do minutes for the commissioners. So it's easier. Trying to make life easier, not more complicated. So thank you.
As someone who used to have to do minutes, that sounds like a really good idea to me.
I would just, I guess, I think that's fabulous. So if we looked at the commissioners, that would be a good template. Okay,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure there's a little direction there.
If there's a
for us
vote,
to look at.
and you can even do a little more, because
Okay.
you can even have, what the topic was that somebody talked about, but just list the time, and that way when somebody goes back to look at the meeting, they know where to look for that information, and it's verbatim then, and
Perfect. Yeah.
and you don't have to worry.
Yeah, I know Miss Barbarick's online, but thanks. I just wanted to be able to
I appreciate the
communicate that.
effort to make the notes. I just feel like it's probably more work than needs to be done.
Sounds good. Yeah.
I
Sure, she'll be
think
delighted.
anyone could talk to Anita in our office about how she does that.
Okay, so that would be a good contact. All right, perfect. That's all I was trying to figure out. Thank you.
Okay, and our stormwater expenditure report for February 20.
Fleet maintenance, we spent $4,247.12. Backfill, $21,413.17. On-call contractors, which was 14 traffic officers, $2,649.39. Gas, $5,434.12. And non-health insurance, $71,711.
Thank you. Any questions? Then we'll move on to our only item of business today, which is an MOU with the Lake Monroe.
Good afternoon. I'm Michelle Cohen, the Executive Director of the Water Fund. And hopefully you all had a chance to, standing on my tiptoes, had a chance to read the letter that was in your packet. So we're just seeking $3,500 in support of operation of a stream flow gauge on South Fork of Salt Creek, which helps to determine the information that we need to calculate sediment and nutrient and all those kinds of things over the long term, that Friends of Lake Monroe, another organization, does that work. So the Water Fund's role is really to try to bolster funding for things that are necessary for the health of Lake Monroe. Did you have any questions for me on that project and specifics?
I don't have questions. My comment is I appreciate that this has happened. I've supported it in the past. I'll support it in the future. Where does the data go?
So the City of Bloomington will go and sample during high frequency events, as well as just getting the flow data that's continuously monitored. And then Friends of Lake Monroe gets that information and they crunch the numbers.
Just in support, I will say it's nice to kind of see the water fund and then the Friends of Lake Monroe kind of write a letter to encourage that. When we were first discussing it, it was nice to kind of distinguish the two, and kind of now as we're a couple of years down the road, it's cool to see how things kind of came together and how they complement each other's efforts.
And I think in the past there was an issue with, hey, this isn't even in Monroe County, but it impacts Monroe County, so I don't have an issue with the Jackson County location.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a very important thing to continue to maintain. Lake Monroe is really essential for our existence. It would be very foolish to not keep on keeping track.
And we do have money set aside in the budget, Ms. Penna? Okay, great. I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion to approve the MOU with Lake Monroe Water Fund for water monitoring in 2025.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, please?
Public comment.
Oh, yes, thank you. Is there any public comment on this item? If you're on, raise your hand, or if you're in the Net U Hill room, you can come to the podium. And there doesn't seem to be any public comment. Now, would everyone in favor please say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before I leave the podium, I have a couple of pieces of literature for you if you'd like. I'll just pop up there and hand them out if that's okay.
Great, thank you.
Great. Thank you.
We like lit.
Lost my agenda.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank
So much.
Now, available?
Lisa's online.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay. Good afternoon. So I want to provide I made a spreadsheet there to explain why I would be going in for an additional, I have it scheduled for April 22nd at this time. So to keep the project of Stipp Road moving along and get that completed. I kind of give you a breakdown. Any of the funds that were left and appropriated in the Stipp Road Morse Creek project just stayed in our cash at the end of the year. We did not deplete that line. And then after January 1st, Milestone was able to work with our consultant, get the quantities agreed upon, submit their final payment of that $255,056 at the top. And then our consultant final fee on that project was the $11,754.16. So we ended up, for the completion of Morse Creek being paid out in 2025, was $266,810.16. So we had appropriated, I believe, $1.5 million in the Stipp Road project. So that left us with a balance of this as of 3/20 of $1,233,189.84. Since then, and I've provided all the contracts, we were kind of on a time crunch, and that was not due to any fault in the department. Erica, and before Erica, Kelsey, I went back through my emails. We started working with Duke and the Army Corps in August of 2022 to get an easement for Duke. So that's kind of why everything fell to this last week. So we ended up getting the Duke utility agreement there for $122,637.24. We had Lockmuller Group. We had to restake everything for the tree removal. So that task was $8,800. Then we had to go through and get the bluestone tree quote updated, and that was the $96,577. And then we also have remaining on our existing contract with Lockmuir for these two projects, $187,624.61. So the estimate for completion for Stip Road construction this year, and that also includes replacing a bridge in that project, is $1.758, $238.85. I really worded that really wrong. So the additional would be around 500. We're going in for 525,000. And then again, I put on there as the cash balance for the council on that at that time. So none of these costs were not anticipated. We just didn't know until closer to time what we would be up against, whether or not we could even do the project, because we were up against a week and a half window of getting the trees down, getting the contracts down. I appreciate everybody's hard work in doing that. Bluestone, the commissioners, everybody running through the contracts, Lockmuir, but we did get it done. The trees are down. We're ready to go. Of course, we'll be waiting on Duke at this point for their relocation, but I do believe that we'll be able to, we have EMB ready to do the project. So, and after that point, we also just opened bids to pave the rest of Stip Road out of MBH funds when the project is complete. So that's I wanted to give you a breakdown of the cost for that project. Again, a lot of this was anticipated. We just didn't know the final numbers, and then paying that extra $266,000 out of 2025 budget for the completion of Morse Creek. So I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
I just wanted to see if we had to take a vote here to send this to council for an additional.
I was actually going to recommend doing that just to make sure it's cleaner. It shows
fine,
that
yes.
it has no vote needed, but that was going to be kind of my recommendation.
Yeah, and I would prefer to tell, let the council know that it was brought to you all, and you, hopefully at this point, approved us moving forward with it.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to recommend that we take this to council for an additional appropriation for the amount of $525,000. Is that the right number?
Yeah.
Okay, great. For $525,000.
Have a second?
I will second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor, please say, oh, no. Is there any public comment on this item? If you're, raise your hand. If you're in the Nat U Hill room, you can. Seeing none, we'll come back to the board.
I guess I just wanted to ask, so the Morse Creek and the Stip Road, I will say I am going to support this motion, but outside of long-term maintenance and other issues, because we're never done maintaining our infrastructure, and but I guess Ms. Ridge, do you think that this is going to kind of get us to the finish line on this project that we've been seeing for almost 5 years now? I don't want to speculate, multiple years. So
no, I couldn't agree more, Tron. It's taken a long time to get here. Yes, I do see completion of these two projects. I do want to point out, but I don't know if you're familiar with the area, but where this project of Stip Road stops around Car Top, and then going towards Morse Creek, there will still be an area that could face flooding, but it's outside the area of any homes or anybody being displaced. That was the main goal for this project. So the construction limits will include anybody that has a residential driveway in that area. The other end of Morse Creek, anybody would be able to get out on that side. So the goal that we had for this project, I believe we will meet those. So yeah, I'm excited that we can. I saw Morse Creek get done. It turned out really well, and I think Stip Road, the other end, is going to turn out just as well.
All right, if there are no further comments or all in favor, please say aye.
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 And the motion passes.
Do you want me to go on to my next item?
Oh, sure.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I'm trying to read someone else's computer. Yes, please
You're okay.
continue. I'm sorry.
You're fine. So I just wanted to talk about the South Shore project that we've been doing for the last 2 or 3 years. We ended up getting a permit to be able to work on bank stabilization along South Shore Drive. We were permitted, I believe, for like just under 2,200 feet. Over the years, back in Terry Quillman and Kelsey, we had chose some of the worst spots to do. Our permit expires next year. I believe we have an additional right around that 2,200 feet still to complete. I met with Erica this week. She's going to redo some maps, get with IDEM to where we can update. It states in the permit if you're going to change your scope a little bit or the area, then to contact them. We want to be transparent with them. We want to make sure we do this right, but we also want to do the project before the permit expires next year. So it was the other item on my agenda was to go to the council to ask for $160,000 to complete that project in 2025. So we can not have to go through the permit process again because it can be very lengthy. We do this mainly in-house with our forces. The only thing that we do is hire outside trucking services. But then we believe that we will be able to finish this. South Shore is on our radar for possible paving in 2026. So we're just trying to plan ahead and try and get this project complete before that permit expires and work with IDEM of getting the location to show them what we've completed and what we have left, and work with them if we need to make any adjustments to that permit. And the work would probably be done this fall.
So obviously we have the budget for this. We just need an additional from council. So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to support of seeking an additional appropriation to complete the South Shore project this year in the amount of $160,000.
Motion?
I just have one question. I'm definitely familiar with their area, South Shore. Definitely kind of an access road for everyone out in that area. So my only request is maybe kind of in a future meeting that maybe we could have kind of a high-level report where we're just kind of highlighting kind of where those improvements are and kind of for my own, understanding, but also I think that would be nice for the public as well. And,
No, I think that's a great idea, Tron. We'll get some areas that we haven't been to yet, and then we'll get you some areas and some photos and such of the areas that we've completed and how it's helped for the stabilization in that area.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Questions, comments? Are there any questions or comments from the public? Seeing.
Hey, Lee.
Pardon?
Can I need to add, we will bring a resolution to you guys soon, and then there'll be a chance too for a public hearing. I wanted to make sure I added that.
Oh, okay, great. That's good to know. Thank you. And seeing no, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion passes. And the item of business is adjournment.
Nope. Water quality monitoring
Oh,
report.
I'm sorry. Kaylin Berkey.
Kaylin, you can come over here.
Which is going to be very interesting.
Water is so good quality that it's already clear.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kaylin Berkey, and I am a graduate fellow at Monroe County Stormwater. So today I'd like to report to you just a brief synopsis of the first year of the water quality monitoring program. And I would like to preface that all of this information will be given to you with more details in a report that is currently being composed. This is just a general overview so everyone can get a good idea about what's going on. So quick, just a first project summary. The goals were to get more consistent water quality data across Monroe County, and as well as to evaluate the water quality of Monroe County's MS4 critical watersheds. Now, when picking these sites, we picked locations. So we wanted to make sure, or try our hardest, to get sites located within these critical watersheds. Site 3 is up in Jack's Defeat Creek near Ellicksville. 1 is in Acuff Road, which is Stout Creek. 2 and 7 are Clear Creek and Jackson Creek, down near Jackson Creek Park. 4 and 5 are in Cave Creek, upstream and downstream of the Monroe County Airport. And then Site 6 is Sinking Creek and right behind the Walmart Supercenter up in that area. And then the analytical methods used for all these sites were based off Hoosier River Watch. Hoosier River Watch is a IDEM program that is for volunteers who are trained in simple water quality monitoring with like pH test strips, chem kits, very simple, very replicable, and can be done by a stormwater program or anyone within the county who has had the training. So first, we look at pH. Now, the state standard for pH is 6 to 9. It's simply how acidic or basic the water is. Now, all of our watersheds consistently stayed within this range, which is a good sign. There was a couple instances in where Site 4, as you can see, dropped below 6, and it was at 5.5. Now, this is really based on precipitation events and the soil composition. So the phenomenon is called episodic acidification. Essentially, large precipitation events can leach minerals from the soil and into our local waterways. However, since it did coincide with the precipitation event and was not repeat, we did not see low pHs again. It's considered a one-off, nothing to worry about, especially since it's pH test strips and it was 5.5. Nothing crazy going on. So the next is temperature change. This is simply the temperature taken at the first transect, so the most downstream portion of our sample site, and the third transect, which is the farthest upstream. Now, for Hoosier River Watch and state standards, you do not want the difference to exceed 2.8 degrees Celsius. Now, the county average for this is about 0.3, which indicates that we're doing very good in terms of temperature change. Environmental factors are a big influence, especially with our smaller, slower moving streams. That has to do with the air temperature and then tree cover and sun exposure. So the one spike on the graph that you can see that happened in October on Site 6, that was right at the end of the drought season. So the stream was moving extremely slow, and it is one of our more developed sites. So the first transect is in a very shaded, covered area, has a very large tree growing over it, while the rest of the stream is pretty much 100% sun exposed. So with a combination of the water moving slowly, it has a lot of time to heat up between the first and third transects, which results in that higher temperature change. Next is dissolved oxygen. State standard, 4 to 12. Now, the Hoosier River Watch, the highest they can measure is 12 milligrams per liter, and is not necessarily a bad thing if the DO exceeds it. It's preferred if it's in this range for aquatic organisms. The county average is right about 9.49, which is pretty much spot on perfect, especially with the state standards and with federal EPA. Environmental variables for this are temperature, especially seasonal fluctuations, which you guys can see on the graph, with your colder months, your Novembers through your Aprils having an average of around 10 milligrams per liter, whereas your summer months, your June through October, the average is around 7 milligrams per liter. Another impact on this is decomposition. So decomposition is also highly affected by temperature. It eats up the dissolved oxygen in the water, which is why you would see that in the summer months, June through October, could also be another cause of having the lower dissolved oxygen levels. Next is nitrate and nitrite. Now, there's no state standards as it's considered a nutrient pollution, but in Indiana, the typical range is 0 to 36 milligrams per liter. The county average is 0.1. So nitrate it's harder to test for, and the strips are not as accurate as, say, the DO amples would be, but it does give us a good idea that at least there is some nitrate in the systems. Now, environmental variables are agriculture, and specifically agriculture that gets caught up in the runoff from heavy precipitation events. Now, not all sites are shown on the graph, and that's because 3 of them did have concentrations that were lower than the detectable limit for the science that we are using. The one spike from site 1 that occurred in October, once again during a drought area when it was very low water, so there's a chance that there's higher, you can pick up on the higher concentrations. It was not a repeat event. However, we are hoping that the land use analysis that I will discuss later will help explain why the site on Stout Creek has more nutrient pollution. It also, this is phosphate is another nutrient pollutant. It has the same sort of trends as the nitrate, and they normally coincide in terms of agricultural fertilizers. Once again, they don't have a state standard. However, it is a limiting nutrient of freshwater ecosystems. So a spike in this is what can lead to harmful algal growths and eutrophication of the local waterways. Next is turbidity. Okay, so this graph is a little backwards. The higher turbidity, 60 centimeters, is when you can see 60 centimeters down into the water, which technically means there's low turbidity because you can see far. Whereas where the lower, near 10, which happened in March at Site 5, that means the water is very cloudy, very turbid, you can't really see through it. So the state standard for this is 90 centimeters. The Hoosier River Watch uses a turbiditube, which only reaches 60, so that's why our data is capped at 60 centimeters. The goal is to hopefully in future get a turbidimeter so that we can more accurately guess the turbidity rather than just using our eyesight to do so. Environmental variables for this are precipitation, as with most physical water quality parameters, substrate composition, and flow. Now, here are more rock-based streams. So our sites 1, 2, 3, and 7, they typically don't have as big of change in turbidity because they don't have the sand and the silt that easily gets swept up when there is high amounts of water flow resulting from precipitation events. And then, as you can see on the graphs, sites 4, 5, and 6, they're the ones that tend to have a drop in turbidity. Specifically around March, there was a large precipitation event, and then in January, there also was. August, I've looked back at the precipitation data and everything that happens there. Since it was only a one-time drop in turbidity, haven't considered it a red flag, but it is something to pay attention to if it does happen again at Site 5. Next is discharge. This is completely dependent on stream size and precipitation, therefore not a state standard. In general, the county average is about 10.5, but our sites, the larger ones, 1, 2, 3, and 7, they're normally up around 15 or higher, and then our smaller sites, 4, 5, and 6, they're in people's backyards, very man-made influenced, they're normally below 10. And then finally is the water quality index. Now this is an accumulation of all the previously talked about water quality indicators. The state standard for this is between 80 and 100 is considered good. Everything's healthy, it's good for aquatic organisms, there's no major red flags. It wouldn't be a need to alert to the state if this was a higher scientific level study. County average is 91.5, so it says we're doing pretty good. Most of the drops in these, especially below the 85, were at sites 4, 5, and 6, and they were all related to the increase in turbidity from large precipitation events. So land use analysis is currently in progress. I'm working with Madison, Luna, Erica, and they're also talking with GIS to help work with using our parcel data and doing upstream analysis to see what physical and chemical parameters are impacting the sites. We also use a little bit of USDA stream stats for that land cover. However, that is from 2011, so it should be used as a underestimation of the percentage. Now, this will be broken down in the report. It's still currently an ongoing process, so I didn't have any product to show you today, but the maps of each individual sample site will also be included in the report. Next, so these recommendations come from Erica, Adam, and myself. First would to be evaluate opportunities and feasibility of best management practices upstream of sites with higher turbidity. Higher turbidity is normally because of flash flooding, erosion, heavy precipitation events. So rain gardens, detention ponds, stuff that the office could feasibly do. And then the other one would be education and outreach based off of land use. Examples of this is working with the Soil and Water Conservation District on education of agriculture and fertilizer use, and then specifically focusing on commercial and industrial properties using rain gardens, placing retention or detention ponds in proper places, especially if they are placing large amounts of impervious surfaces to help not drastically change the water flow and keep our downstream areas safe. This picture is an example of vegetation that was put in Will Detmer Park by Monroe County Soil and Water. Our next steps are E. coli sampling, which will hopefully be done alongside CBU and the project that is going on there. And then we have begun BOD analysis. So biological oxygen demand, how much dissolved oxygen are the organisms using up? And then eventually it'll be a public-facing dashboard. So that will include maps, all the water quality data we have. I am graduating in May, so that project will have to be placed on someone else, but I'm sure it will be done beautifully no matter who does it. So overall, the annual water quality trends show that Monroe County critical watersheds are doing really well. However, I think it's important to point out that as Bloomington continues to develop, that the relationship between runoff and impervious surfaces, erosion, turbidity, and then nutrient pollution and eutrophication. Keeping these in mind while working on these new permits and new stormwater ordinances will really help protect these waterways even as development continues. Any questions? Yes.
I just want to say congratulations on graduating.
Thank you.
Good report. Thank you for that. So actually, I'm wondering if there's a way that we can in the future, I'm hoping we're still going to be tracking these numbers, right? That we can look at those instances where there's high turbidity and look in the area and see what's going on. Is there a construction project? Is there, what's changed or what's led to it? And I think making those connections is going to be really important for folks.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a next step. Like Kaylin said, she's graduating, so we're taking notes for how to pass this on to our next graduate fellow that will be starting in the fall. We don't know who that will be yet. I just submitted the job description back to O'Neill School, so they'll be getting that started. But that's definitely something that we're thinking about as we continue this project.
It's just like a little red flag that says, "Hey, look at me and what's going on here," right? Yeah.
Thank you so much. This was it was really quite interesting and very informative. And I'm looking forward to getting the actual entire.
I have a question for staff, not related to this, but since we are on the eve of a major rain event, is there anything you want the public to know at this moment? I would say if you live in an area with storm drains, to make sure they're clear. What else would you want people to know at this moment?
Yes, definitely. If there's a storm drain in the front of your house or near your house in your neighborhood, make sure it's clear so that water can get off the road and keep the roads clear. If trees go down, if there's water blocking the roadway, turn around. Don't try and go through standing water. You can call our highway dispatch number, which I don't know off the top of my head, but it's listed online. Give them a call and let them know that there's a road hazard, and crews will be able to address that as quickly as they can. When it's safe to do so, make sure that if there is a detention basin in your neighborhood, make sure that the outlet control structure, the big concrete structure, is clear. There's no debris built up on it so that water can move out and not create a standing water issue for you as well.
I'll plug the county alert system. You can find information at the county website to sign up, and you'll get alerts. I think that's a very helpful tool. I did want to make a comment about the presentation, though, but I feel like that's what we're discussing is way more important, people's safety. I just want to express some gratitude and a thank you. I think it kind of falls in line with what Commissioner Thomas was saying, is like, having this monitoring program out there really gives us a better indicators of like maybe what's impacting our waterways. Is it development? Is it like, a potential pollutant runoffs? We haven't done a lot of water monitoring, and I think this is going to help build the value so we continue to make that investment. So what you did here to even give us kind of like a very simplistic baseline with, what type of kits that were available and, what kind of analysis we can get from that is great. But I think that this is shows what kind of value is truly in here, because everything that you're going to be able to compile by monitoring our waterways can complement efforts in our planning department, can complement efforts in our building department, can complement efforts here in our stormwater, our drainage board, across the board. And I'm really happy that you kind of saw this through, and this is the second time you went through it, and I noticed some subtle changes on your presentation. And again, thank you for kind of dedicating your time and being willing to provide this work for our stormwater program. Thank you.
I've had a lot of fun doing this. This has really showed me what my passion is, and I'm now going to do that in the workforce, so I'm very excited.
So just to confirm, there was the instruction to call the highway department to report. I think I have that number here. It says online, to report potholes, fallen trees, or other road maintenance issues, please call highway maintenance at 812-803-6810.
And yeah, that's if you, or you can report it online.
Yep.
They'll get it the same way, whichever way is easier. Yep.
And I no longer have an agenda in front of me. Is our next 14th of May?
May 7th.
May 7th.
May 7th. Yes.
So we're adjourned?
We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for the excellent presentation. That was beautiful.
Yes.
Beautifully done, too.
Yes.
And congratulations.